no.
Are you okay? Did you pull a muscle there? It looked like it hurt. Welcome to Campus Conversations. Christian Murphy here, and today we are really excited because we have Hugo Morales, the man behind the lab. You know Hugo from working in student life, the student involvement office, and multicultural programming, but more importantly, you know him from his just awesome personality. He's one of the nicest people on campus, one of the most pleasant people to be around. So it's a real treat to be able to share this moment with him because it's just a real joy personally to have a conversation with him. So happy to have you here, Hugo. What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. How are you?
I'm well. I'm doing well. Yeah. So thanks for being on the show. This is kind of our a little makeshift web show. We don't know what to call it, but an opportunity to just connect with people that we love connecting with on campus. We're a college built on connections. That's a word that we hear a lot. And so as we go through this situation, this pandemic, we're missing those connections. So we thought it would be a great opportunity to reconnect with the people that we love to see on campus and offer that to our students and faculty and staff and just see what you're up to, what gifts you have to bring to the table. So before we start though, give me a number.
3.
Whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted with the important matters.
Wow.
Our quote of the day. Can you guess it? Who is it? Let's see if you can guess it.
I always go with Walt Whitman.
Well, that's a good guess if you're guessing quotes. It was Albert Einstein, so you're wrong. But man, so your quote was Albert Einstein. One of the things that we really love to our goal rather with this conversation is to see what you're up to, see what things are going on in your neck of the woods. So what's something interesting that you have to offer for us in our community?
So recently I've found myself with a lot of time, as many have been saying. I want to do some cleaning, get rid of some old things, and I finally had the opportunity, and I'm like, why not do so? So cleaning out some my closet and then some file cabinets that we have. We got rid of a bunch of papers and stuff like that, but within that we found beautiful pictures from my childhood and my mom's childhood before she came to America, and her siblings and her parents, and pictures from the 50s. It kind of made me a little bit nostalgic going through these pictures, but that was great. I have a few actually.
Oh, cool.
Handy because I didn't know I was going to be interviewed today.
Yeah, you are.
This picture is from 1966. It's actually my mom's brother, her uncle, my uncle.
Your uncle, yeah, I got you.
And this picture is from 1950. It's my grandmother.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow.
A picture from, this has no year on it, but it's pretty old. It's my it's my grandfather. Right. And then I have a whole bunch of pictures. And there's this picture that always reminds me of The Shining, which I think is hilarious. This is back in 1953, way before that movie was ever a thought. So I just wanted to share that because that was.
Wait, so you're saying that your aunts are the owners of the Shining idea? Absolutely,
yeah. So except we don't have any copyright connections.
Could you imagine if it turned out that Stephen King came across a photo of your relatives that inspired him? And you'll never know that? That is really cool. You're doing that and you're going through those photos, because I think something that's interesting with our students and just the generations now, not to sound like old, because we're not old, we're younger. And so we're kind of in a cool spot, I think, you and I, where we get to really enjoy technology, but we also have some moments of our childhood that are nostalgic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like the power of a photo is so different now than it was then. I think of relatives in my life that are younger. Like I have a 1-year-old nephew, and like there's so many photos of him already. But when our families were growing up, the photos were like precious like that, where you either had to go somewhere to get the photo taken, but if you lost that photo, like, and they're precious too, because like the edges, they all look like fine stamps.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, and there's something really powerful about that, especially if you have the opportunity to hold on to them, because some of them, get lost. That's pretty cool. You have those.
Absolutely. And I went through all the pictures that we did find, took pictures of the pictures, and sent them to relatives of mine. Oh, look who I found. I found a picture of my aunt, uncles, etc. And it's been, it's opened up a lot of conversation, and many cousins that I haven't spoken to in a good 15 years.
Yeah.
And by finding these pictures, we're talking again. I thought that's such a beautiful thing.
You're such a good soul.
Oh,
So awesome. That's a good use of your time, right? It's a good way to spend the days, is going through different things like that, because you got to stay fresh during this moment, and it's very easy to kind of lay down and get down.
my grandma used to always say, that above the clouds, the sun is always shining. And right now it's pretty cloudy,
Yeah.
but above that, the sun is going to come out and it's going to be a different day. It's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Things are definitely going to be different, but it's definitely going to be a different day, different opportunities for us. We have to think that way.
I like that better than what Albert Einstein had to say. I kind of wish we could replace that. Can we cut that out and edit your grandma in?
I mean, if you want to.
You quote your grandma. I have to. This is turning into like an episode about Hugo's family history here. So, but you quote your grandmother a lot, which I think is really cool. And I feel like you always have a good memory bank of quotes from people in your life that serve a value or purpose. And I found in many circumstances with you where you're in a conversation with a student, or even just to myself, where you'd be like, "Hey, I know someone that once said," and it always comes in really well. So that wasn't a question or anything. That was just a good on you, because I think that's a great tool to be able to have. So many times people just don't listen to good things and then hold on to them. So
I remember watching this movie a couple of years ago, and I can't tell you what it was, but the line in the movie said that when someone passes, if you don't ever talk about them or think about them, it's like they passed away twice. So that's why I always mention my grandma, my grandfather as well, but more so my grandmother, because she had um, wonderful um, tidbits of knowledge that she would always pass along.
all right, let's try a game here, okay? I'm not clever, and I don't have a clever name for this game yet. If it works, maybe we'll figure something out. But I was listening to a podcast by the BBC. It's called Desert Island Discs. And basically the concept was they would have someone like Bruce Springsteen or Christopher Nolan, and they would have the whole episode be centered around them picking 5 songs that are their favorite songs, that if they were stuck on a desert island, these are the only 5 songs that they can listen to. But they couldn't just tell them the song. They would tell them a story that goes with the song as to why this song matters to them. And a lot of times the guests would get really clever and say, when I was a child, my grandma would play this song all the time in the kitchen. It just reminds me of that smell of the food being cooked. And they would tell these stories. Really, really cool. So we're going to try it here. Doesn't have to be music though, but just desert island items. What are, let's do 3. Let's try this. We'll give it a shot here. But what are 3 desert island items that Hugo Morales needs to have with him?
Definitely a blanket to cover myself, but not because of that. There's a blanket that I had when I was from about 2 years old to about 12 or so.
Okay.
And around 12, I had moved and I had lost it and I was devastated. But it was a blanket that my dad had left for me. When I was 2 years old, my dad had left, and a long story, but one of the items he had left for me was a blanket. And I kept that close to me and I slept with it every single night up until I was about 12 or so. And then at that time, we had to move. And when we moved, you always lose something when you move, just moving things around, etc., especially different people helping you. And I was devastated, and I've always wished to have that blanket again. And the other thing, um, so my grandpa was a tailor, and he used to make his own clothes and whatnot. And in Dominican Republic, he would make the people's clothes in his neighborhood. So he left me a thimble, right? Like in Monopoly even removed the thimble from the game. It's actually really sad because I would always choose a piece with my grandpa. Anyway, and the whole thing, he left me a thimble. Um, and I would definitely bring that with me too because that thimble reminds me of him. It's um a super like thick thimble that he always used, and it has his engraving. He initialed it like an old school way, heated up a knife and carved it in there. But anyway, it that has his initials in there, and I would bring that with me because of the memories that has connected to it, associated with it, and hopefully with that I can make my own clothes if I'm in a desert island. I think you need more things than just a thimble, but you know.
No, that's clever. Yeah.
Um, okay. And then the last thing, um, whew, I guess it'll have to be some sort of paper.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say some paper to write stuff down with, but
Oh, that too. Well, then you need a pen.
oh, that's true. Okay, so
This is turning into like Survivor version. It's not meant to be that way.
yeah, absolutely. Um, okay. Oh, one more item.
Oh, so four. So you're just making things up. Okay. All right.
Right, right. We're just making it go, right?
Sure. Now go. Let's go. You've earned the fourth one because the others were so interesting.
Oh, but except for the paper. But actually, the last thing would be this old school rocking chair we used to have at my grandma's house. And she used to sit in the rocking chair at night. And when I would go visit, well, she would sit there all the time. But when I would go visit, I mean, and I couldn't sleep, she would be on the rocking chair. And like, Grandma, I can't sleep. And she would just hold me in her lap and then rock me back and forth until I fell asleep. I probably did that until I was about 32. Um,
Yes. I was hoping to God that you were going to make that joke. Oh, yes.
um, but that wooden chair, and it went through quite a bit of it had its own history because it broke in a few
Yeah.
times. My grandpa fixed it for my grandmother, and towards the end she never wanted to get rid of it because it meant so much to her. And I would bring that. Also it'll be a great place to sit, rock back and forth in my blanket, making clothes using a thimble. Yes.
That is really and this was thrown on this idea here of the desert island was thrown on you last minute, so there was no preparation there. I
Yeah,
want
absolutely.
I want viewers to understand that came from the heart. As we go to sign off here, is there any last minute thing that you just want to say to those who are decided to tune in here? Anything to our community?
Yeah, definitely. One piece of advice that I would share with everyone is I know this is not most the best time, right, in our nation's history and the world's history, but take this opportunity while you're at home or your downtime to spend time with your family, appreciate these little moments because just like everything, they don't always last as long as you would want them to be. And the last thing you would want is for them to become a memory and not be able to live in that moment. So take advantage of that time, spend time with your family, have family dinners, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Spend time with your family and appreciate that. Hear their stories. So take advantage of this time, spend time with your family, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
I think it's beautiful, man. I think everything you've had to share with us today has been really worthwhile, and I appreciate it. Appreciate your time as always. Thanks for joining us, Hugo. This is it for today's campus conversations. We'll see you next time, and have a great day. Okay, bye.
Stay safe, everyone.